Technology, ladies and gentlemen. Document cameras. Okay, so oil pastels. You have a set of 16 oil pastels in beautiful, fun little colors. We're going to use probably all your colors today. I want you to get a feel for them and get a, get the variety going. Oil pastels are like a waxy crayon. They will get on your fingers. So when we're done, go wash your hands. Use soap, okay? But I would recommend that you push up those sleeves, okay? Oil pastel does not like to come out of clothes because it is oil-based, okay? So it can stain your clothes, so just be careful, okay? Because I don't want you to stain your clothes. So we're going to start on this worksheet by putting our name up at the top, please. Pencil, you can write it in anything you want. I'm going to write it in oil pastel. 20, period 12. And then in the very first box up here, all we're trying to get is the different types of strokes that happen with an oil pastel. So I'm just going to pick a color, pick any color, and I'm going to use the edge of the oil pastel, the tip of the oil pastel, and I'm just going to fill the box with some marks, just to kind of get a feel for how that oil pastel reacts. Just fill it with some marks, use the tip of it, life will be good. For the second box, it wants you to use the side of the oil pastel. So on this guy, you might want to peel back your paper. You don't have to, but if you peel back the paper, then it gives you a little bit more kind of wiggle room. So pick a color, and I'm a messy colorer, so I'm not going to be real dainty with inside the lines. Just FYI. And then just use the side of the oil pastel and try and color with the side and see how that reacts differently. So oil pastels can go on really thin or they can go on really thick. I'm more of a thick oil pastel person. I like to treat it more like paint. I want it to stack on top of each other. I want it to layer. And one of your requirements when you do your final drawing is that no white of the paper shows through. So that's why you've got to be kind of thick with your oil pastel. And even if you have areas of white in your drawing, it has to be white oil pastel. Okay? So I like it to be on the thicker side. It comes down to personal preference. Okay, so next box is down. We'll work our way down this side of the worksheet and then we'll work down the other side of the worksheet. Mixing colors. Who remembers elementary art and primary colors? What you got? What are your primary colors? Anybody? There's a color wheel on the wall. Annie? Very good. Red, blue, and yellow. Yes. All right, so pick a red, a blue, or a yellow. Dun, 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 dun. I'm going to like, red is my favorite color, so I'm going to use the red. Faster, Lily. Be careful going up there. Miss Stroll's going to Michigan. She's taking a couple days off. All right, so I'm going to do some primary color of red, and I'm going to take it into that center box. And then I'm going to take primary colors of yellow. Ooh, let me show you this real quick. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a dirty oil pastel. Okay? My recommendation to you, grab a slice of paper towel. There's paper towels here, there's paper towels back by the sink. You're gonna want some paper towels so that you can wipe oil pastel because they do get dirty. If you, there's two ways to do this. You can do it with the paper towel, but you can also just grab a scrap sheet of paper in your sketchbook, and you can just kind of draw with the oil pastel until it gets clean. So both ways work just fine, but if you ever need to hop up and grab a paper towel, there at the sinks, and there's a roll up here. Okay, so let's get back to our primary. On the other side, do another primary color. So red, yellow, blue, and then in the middle, we're gonna mix them. And mix back and forth. And I probably should have put my yellow down first, but I didn't. And in the middle, number one, you're going to end up with another dirty oil pastel. But in the middle, you should end up with a mixture of those two primers. So if you did red and yellow like I did, you should have an orangey color. If you did yellow and blue, you should have a green. And if you did red and blue, you should have a purple, a violet. So that's just our mixing, because we've got 16 beautiful colors here, but our reference photo might have 25 different colors in it, right? So we're gonna have to learn how to mix some colors, make some colors, tweak some colors, if you will, okay? All right, tints and shades. Working our way down. Tints and shades. Move. What's that? Maybe? Kind of? Sort of? Ooh. These are fun little document cameras. It has autofocus and it records and does all sorts of fun stuff for you. See if I can straighten it. Okay. Tints and shades. Does anybody remember what a tint is? No? Yeah. Alright, I'll give you a hint. It's black and white. So you're going to need a black and a white, and then pick a couple colors to put with it. I think I'm going to go with my pink and my lime green here. Alright, so to do a tint, that is a color, and I'm just going to lightly put down this oil pastel. I'm not going to press real hard. I'm not even going to fill it all the way in. I'm just going to lightly coat my box with a little bit of pink. You can use any color you want. And then, I've got another dirty oil pastel. Hang on. It is good to keep your oil pastels relatively clean, because the second you go to use one and you're like, oh man, you're going to get like some dirty booger of a color that you don't want down on your final drawing, and that's not good. So then I'm going to take the white on top of it, layer it nice and thick. I'm pressing a little harder this time. And now I have a beautiful tint of pink. So I have a lighter pink than what I had before. And it's just made by mixing those two colors lightly together. Now you can use, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, you can use paper towels to shade, like to blend stuff together. You can use your fingers to smudge stuff together. Lots of different methodologies here. All right, so now I'm going to take a different color. I chose green. You can choose any color you want. And I'm going to coat this other box in some green. And then let's talk about black oil pastels. They are messy. They are very, very soft. Okay, I don't know if they just have more wax in them. I don't know what it is, but the black, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so when you use the black oil pastel on this, I want you to just kind of lightly go across. Just lightly, because a little bit's going to go a long way, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Just like I'm barely touching the paper. Barely touch it, just light like a feather. All the way across. And then I'm actually going to pick back up my green and layer my green back on top and press a little harder to mix them together. It's kind of an ugly moss color, but it'll work. So that's a shade. So a shade is a darker color, so it's a color plus black. A tint is a lighter color, it's color plus white. You might need both, right? If you've got this picture and it's got a gradient, which is a transition in color from light to dark, you might need it to go from black to a dark red, to a medium red, to a light red, to a white, all the way across. And we're actually going to do that next. So on this next one, choose a color, any color. I did green yesterday. Let's do light blue. Okay, so this is a standard value scale from light to dark. A value scale means that we go exactly as I just told you, from black to white with a color. But we're not going to use black and white on this first one. We're just going to try and get from a dark blue to basically the white of the paper as we go across this box. So I'm going to use my blue, and in the back here, on the left hand side, I'm going to press pretty hard. So this is about pressure. And then as I get to the middle, I'm going to press a little lighter. And then as I get towards the end, I want to barely be touching the paper. So light. Just right across like that. Okay? So that gives us a nice little gradient, but it's not really like blended in, right? So this is where your paper towel can come in handy. I like to take my paper towel and I stick a finger in it, and then I kind of wrap the paper towel around it like I have a little finger ghost. Okay? And I'm just gonna blend back and forth. Now you can use your bare finger if you want to. Some people prefer to use their skin, and that's totally fine. And I'm just gonna blend that across and see what I can get with it. So I'm looking for just a nice little gradient. And again, it's just about pressure, so I'm pressing hard and then lightening up my grip. And if I take that and go across, I can pull that as well and get a little gradient underneath. But your fingers are going to get dirty. Oil pastel has a horrible habit of getting underneath your nails. So just be aware that when you wash your hands, do the doctor scrub. You guys know what the doctor scrub is? Where you like wash your hands, you get all soaked up, but then you take your nails and you kind of go like this in the palms of your hands, and it really kind of works that soap up into the nail bed, and it'll get your hands cleaner. So you'll need it for when we do clay for sure, but you might need it for oil pastel. All right, let's do this other. Okay, so this one, this value scale is a little different. We're going to use black, white, and a color. So I'm going to do my purple. All right, so here I'm going to start a little differently. I'm going to start in the middle of my rectangle with just normal purple. Normal pressure, normal everything, right? And then I'm going to press harder as I go towards the end that's going to have black on it. And then I'm going to press a little lighter going towards the end that's going to have white on it. Just similar to how we did our tints and shades. So then when you add your black for your shade, I'm going to start on this left hand side, and remember how we just barely touched it, because a little bit of black goes a long way. And darker colors in oil pastels, they have this habit of really starting to kind of dirty and mud up your picture if you're not careful. So use darker colors last. You always want to start with light colors and then work your way to dark. So I'm going to go back with some purple to do a little mixing, a little blending back and forth. There we go. And I could even hop in here with my paper towel if I wanted to and kind of blend that purple together. Just be careful. The more blending you do, the more oil pastel you're going to basically pick up off the paper. And then I'm going to take white to the other end, blend that back towards the center. And then I might have to go, it's kind of a back and forth. I might have to clean off my purple because it got dirty with the mixing of the black. And I might have to take a little bit of purple into the white and just kind of blend it. See if I can get some nice solid purple in that center. So again, back and forth until you get the color you want. Beautiful. Beautiful. I feel like that's awfully dark. I wonder if I can exposure. Ooh. That's like too white. It's not bad up there. It's just my screen. Okay, so now we're going to go back up to the other side, blending two colors. So any two colors you want to pick. I'm going to go browns because I like mixing browns. They sometimes come up with some pretty colors of browns. So I've got like a tan color and like it's kind of a red brown, and it's dirty. So hang on, I gotta wipe it off. Okay. So now I'm going to just lay down one of my colors all the way across. And then if you've got a darker color, if one's darker than the other one, be a little gracious with it, be lighter with it with your touch. And I'm just kind of going to go back and forth with these two colors, seeing if I can blend them together. Mixing on top, and I can get, you know, if you really look at this, we could get some awesome skin colors in here. You can get all sorts of tones of browns and creams, just going back and forth like this. Just mixing back and forth. Oil pastels are kind of cool because it's kind of like the paint and the brush all in one. Now, let me see if I can show you some of these. Do you see these little boogers? There's little boogers that will flake off of your oil pastels, and you don't want little boogers. So just lightly take your hand and just lightly go on top if you see those little boogers, because we don't want those on our final drawing. And so I'm just going to kind of put those off to the side. But you just kind of lightly, you'll see them, they'll roll up, they get all over the place. There's one there, there's one here. But sometimes they can get really dirty and they can mix stuff up. If you look back over here at my green has a lot of little boogers on it. So they can really mess up your drawing. So just be careful if you start to see them and just try and lift them out. You can use a paper clip, which is why I give you a paper clip, to kind of go in, and you can almost use the paper clip like an eraser. And I can scratch out a color. Like if I really mess up a section, let's say I messed up my green. Watch how I can clean up this green. I can take the broad part of my paper clip and I can just scratch out some of that color and use it like an eraser. Alright, so our next box is called Scruffito. Scruffito is the art of carving. We use it a lot in the ceramics world, actually, but you can use it in painting, you can use it in drawing. It's when you carve through one surface to get to another surface. So I want you to find some bright colors, and I just want you to like make a design across, just color in some areas with some yellow. I'm going to use some of that light green. However you want to do it. You can make a little rainbow. Ooh, I need some orange. That orange is striking. It is so bright. I'm going to take that orange, go across, and I'm being messy. It doesn't have to be pretty. All I'm doing is covering the areas of the box. Now, I want you to think back to elementary school. Do you know what I'm going to do next? Nobody? No? Oh. Did you guys ever do scratch art? Where you scratch through the black stuff and you got to like color or metallic or glitter underneath? Mrs. Lowe was always a big fan of scratch art, if you had her in middle school. So I'm going to take black oil pastel, and you could do this with any color. I could take brown on top of it, I could take gray on top of it. I think the black just shows it really well. And I'm going to coat on top lightly, not really lightly, I'm kind of like at a regular pressure, and I'm just going to coat the whole thing all the way across with black oil pastel. I'm not trying to blend, I'm really just trying to coat on top. So I'm not trying to press hard enough where I'm going to mix my colors, because I want that black oil pastel to sit on top. And it looks like I totally just ruined my drawing. But it didn't. It was intentional. Okay, so, cool, black. Now, get that paper clip. If you open up your paper clip, you will have a nice little pointy end that you can draw with. And then you also have your wide end that you can draw with. Multi-purpose tool. Okay, you're going to hang on to the paper clip that I gave you. Just keep it in your pouch because you might want it when we get to our final drawings. So it is yours to keep. Congratulations, you've got a paper clip. All right, so now here we go. I'm going to take my paper clip, and you might want to keep your paper towel handy so you can clean it off. And I could draw, think about if you have hair in your reference photo. Maybe there's little wispy hairs, maybe there's eyebrows. But I can draw through, see if I can do an eyebrow. And whatever colors I have underneath, I'm going to get that texture of, which is pretty sweet. I mean, you could even like write your name. It's like scratch art, homemade scratch art. Look at that. You could do little dots, little texture. Just back and forth doing some mark making. And it just reveals some of the color underneath, but it keeps some of that black quality that's shining through there and just creates a cool effect. Now you can carve into any color. So if I go back up here to where I mixed my two colors together, I could carve in this too if I just wanted some texture. So if I had little hairs on my face, not that any of you have a ton of facial hair, but you do have eyebrows. And like you get little wispy hairs around the outside of your face. You know, maybe you wanted to just put in some texture in that hair. That's not incredibly. Oh, kinda. You kinda see the texture. So those are just some really cool techniques, but we've got 5 more to get through. Beep. Beep. Okay, so we've got 5 techniques down here at the bottom. Hatching, which is parallel lines. Cross hatching, which there's 2 different ways to do that one. And then feathering, stippling, and scumbling. They all sound like wonderful made-up terms, and they are. They're made up by some artist somewhere who was like, that's what I'm going to call this, and then it stuck. So, pick a color. I haven't used the very dark brown, so I'm going to use the very dark brown. And hatching is parallel lines. So I'm going to use the edge of my oil pastel, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do parallel lines straight across. And then I'm going to find a lighter color. For this one I might use it, oh, you know what, I'm going to use the gold color. Gold. And then I'm going to do parallel lines with that one. And I'm just going to see how they lay together there as parallel lines. They can create a really cool kind of, it's almost like a wood grain. Lovely little linear effect. Lots of lines. Now cross-hatching. Ooh, cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is one of my favorite drawing techniques. I love, love, love cross-hatching. Oil pastel is a little different because it's chunkier. But basically, there's 2 ways to do it. You can do it with a T, or you can do it with an X. Okay, so I'm going to show you both. So with a T on cross-hatching, it is literally like drawing a mesh screen. You know, like think about the screens that are on your windows, or if you have a screened-in door. I'm literally, it's like a basket weave. Literally just going back and forth, putting some vertical lines and some horizontal lines, just making some marks. And again, you could layer that with another color, or even better, put a color underneath it, which is what I'm going to do with the X one. So on the X one, I'm going to put down some yellow down here on the bottom. So I'm putting down a solid color, and then I'm going to do X's on top. See if we can see them. And just layer those X's on top of each other. I'm going to do another second. I'm going to come out here. The X's laying on top of each other, it's kind of like a curved X, and you just kind of go back and forth, crisscrossing each other to create this texture. Good for grass, might be good in hair, or if like you had like a sweater, you know, that you had to texturize in your final, those would all be good. Now, of course, our goal is to not show the white through, so remember, putting down that base color is sometimes a really good idea. So let's do stippling next. We'll kind of work our way around our square here. So I'm going to put down orange. You can use any color you want. And I'm just going to fill that space with a nice solid block of orange. I like orange because it's kind of like the black. It's a very fluid color. There's just a lot of wax in that orange color. And then I'm going to take something a little stronger. I'm going to take my red. And stippling is just dots. It's using the tip of the oil pastel to go in and create a texture with dots. And you'll find that oil pastels are kind of like dry erase markers. You know, when you use a dry erase marker on the board and then sometimes it picks up the dry erase marker instead of putting down more dry erase marker. It like erases itself. Oil pastels can do that too, and so if you really look closely, you'll see that you're not only getting orange and red, but you're actually going to get some other lighter, crazier orange colors in there as well. Let's see if I can lower this. There we go. Alright, so Scrumbling. So you know what, let's do Scrumbling last because I'm going to get my hand into it. I'm a lefty. I rub my hands across artwork like it's my job. I'm going to do yellow down as a base color. And then Scrumbling, or feathering, sorry, got ahead of myself. Feathering is literally just using the edge of your pastel to use a light touch. And I like to do feathering like this where I press and then lift up. So I press and then lift up. So you kind of get this feathered edge. And if you kind of layer them on top of each other, you can end up with like a bunch of little feathery kind of looks. Make like a feathery little texture that looks very peacockish. And just kind of layer it. You know, and we've been doing everything with like 2 colors, but you're going to be working and you might find that you need a little bit of purple or you need a little bit of red. And then Scrumbling is putting down one color with another color lightly on top. So I'm going to do pink and I'm going to put down my pink. Nice solid block of pink all the way across that box. Beautiful. And then, oh, we haven't used gray yet. I found my gray. You can use any color you want. All I'm going to do is lightly go on top of it because I'm kind of like, I want to tint the color a different tone. So I'm going to just take that pink and I'm just going to put that gray right on top of it and see what it does to that color. So Scrumbling is just a way to kind of change the tone of a color with another color. So I'm going to put a little bit of pink next to it so that you can really see the difference. There's the bright pink, and then if I scumble on top of it with a gray, I can kind of dull it down. The gray will dull it down. You could do the same thing with like a brown on top. When we get into working on our final, we'll talk more about complementary colors, which are the colors across from each other on the color wheel. If you put down an orange and it's too bright, it's too bold, it's too saturated, it's just too much orange, you can tone it down with a color other than black. In fact, you should tone it down with a color other than black. You should tone it down with a blue. Okay? Red and green, orange and blue, yellow and purple. Those are your complements. So, when you work your way around doing your colors, you're going to find that you might need to adjust your tones a little bit just because we don't have, 500 different colors. So, let's talk about your final. You guys still have to do your final drawing, but what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to work on this. You have a second page to this worksheet, and we're going to go in and we're going to have our reference photo. And we're going to take our reference photo, everybody's will be different, And we're going to start to practice what we want this to look like. This is our brainstorming, okay? This is our trial run before we do it on one of our final self-portraits that we're going to have. So, what I would like you to do, we've got 10 minutes left, and we'll start today and then finish tomorrow. You need to get your final drawing done, okay? So, I would take your phone out and warm up. Well, first I would go clean up. Go wash your hands. And there's 3 sinks, so we could have 3 people washing at the same time and then wait for a sink to become clear and then get up and wash your hands. But what we want you to do today is to start your oil pastel final. So your oil pastel final drawing is on this board, but you may not be ready for the board yet. I want you to practice in your sketchbook a couple times before you do your final. So in your sketchbook, you're going to take a mirror. They're up here on the counter. You'll grab a mirror. You've got your sketchbook. You can do the first couple in pencil, but in the end, your final drawing has to be in Sharpie, regular thick Sharpie, and on this board that I gave you. And I have more of this board if you screw up, okay? Don't worry about that. But you need to practice first and then kind of just wait and do your final when you're ready on that board. So that'll be with Sharpie marker. So I will get, you guys start cleaning up. I'll get a marker up and do some warm-ups. You can time yourself if you want, but you don't have to. I'm gonna grab a mirror. Get my oil pastels put away. And you can tuck that paper clip inside your oil pastel box. It should hopefully stay inside of there. It might fall out. Yeah, go ahead and get a mirror if you haven't gotten a mirror yet. So you need your mirror, your sketchbook, a pencil, and then if we get to it, a Sharpie. So now we got to think back to how we do blind contour. Remember, you're going to pick a point on your face to start. I am too tall for this. Go this way. That works. So you're going to pick a spot to start. And I'll do mine in Sharpie up here. You can time yourself if you want to, but you don't have to. But remember, as your eyes move, so does your hand. But yeah, I want you to warm up a little bit. So do a couple in your sketchbook. You can do them in Sharpie if you want. Well, that kind of works. Try not to look. Oh, I think I'm going to end up with a giant neck again. That looks bad. Alright, well, I missed an earring. But, there's my, I look like a dude, because my hair's all pulled back. You need a little hair. A little hair. So you want to do a couple rounds of practice. We've only got like 5 minutes left, so it'll be kind of a warm-up today just to get back into the groove of blind contour because you haven't done it since last week unless you already did your hybrid work. Your hybrid homework for this week is due Friday at midnight. It is 5 blind contour sketches at home. It is anything you want it to be. You can do self-portraits. You can do other people in your family. You can do your pets. You've got animals in the house. You can do objects, like you could do like a pair of scissors or a fork or, you know, dinner. Just set up 5 things, do 5 quick sketches. They can each be a minute long. Like you could literally spend 5 minutes on the whole thing, okay? They can be real quick, but they are supposed to each be different. And they should be blind contour. So try not to look at it. Yes, sir. Do it in your sketchbook, take a photo of it, upload it to Schoology. Your worksheet, I'm going to grade probably tomorrow, the thing we did today, the oil pastel worksheet, because that's worth 10 points, so I'll get you a quick sketch of that, or a quick grade of that. But today I just want you to kind of warm up your arm. Warming up for drawing is something that everybody should do. My husband's a professional illustrator, and he warms up every morning. He live streams actually every morning doing a warm-up sketch, and all it is to warm up his arm. It's just like how you stretch before you go out and run. He has to warm up his arm before he works for the day. So he does a lot of computer work. He does coloring for books and stuff. So, but in order to do that, he needs to like get the muscles flowing in his arm, get his ideas flowing, all that stuff. So he will live stream in the mornings so that he can talk to people because he's home by himself with the dog all day. And he will live stream drawings that he's just warming up with. It's usually like superhero stuff. Remember, less is more when it comes to hair. And if the drawing needs to wander, if your line needs to wander because you forgot to do something, that's fine too. Trying to get across here. Eyes. I always get my eyes where like one looks like it's a lazy eye. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just not aware that I have a lazy eye. Which could totally be. So I'm just going to do some lines in my mask. I missed my ear. Let's back up and do my ear. And make sure you're not a floating head. That one looks better. That looks more like me. Got a weird little random hair here. But so if you want to practice with Sharpie, go for it. If you want to start with pencil, that's fine. You're going to have probably the first 15 to 20 minutes of tomorrow's class to get this final drawing done. We'll do a quick little warm-up like this, and then we'll go into hopefully getting your final on the mat board, on that board that I gave you. And then we'll talk about your reference photo. You're going to draw out of the bucket and pick your reference photo. And then we'll talk about working with that second worksheet and getting that second worksheet going. But we are basically out of time, guys. You've got like 2 minutes. So tuck this board into your pouch or into your sketchbook. You can leave everything here unless you're going to work on your hybrid stuff tonight. Tuck it into your slot up there because you will be back tomorrow. And then just put your mirrors back over here on the counter, and I will spray those at the end of the period. And everything else I think you're putting in your pouch, so we should be good there.